there, welcome back to another speed build. So today we are doing a eco-friendly tiny house, and I actually built this just before the tiny living pack came out, so it doesn't use any of the items from there, but I still really like how it turned out, and I think it's nice to do the tiny house builds without that pack as well, just because although I like all the items in that pack, it has quite a distinct style, so I feel like if you use a few of those items, like you kind of need all of them so that it matches. I guess not necessarily, but yeah, it's kind of nice just to do it in a different style. So what I ended up doing was pulling out a bunch of items from the debug menu to start with, so they're all kind of there on the property, and what I like is that it has these kind of cool solar panels that I could put on the roof to pretend that it's getting the main source of energy from the sunlight. And I also found that wooden kind of water tower over there. So I imagine it's collecting rainwater for this, for the water that's used on this property. I think I said in my previous video it would have been cool if they had included some eco-friendly type items or gameplay for this pack, but it was just a stuff pack, so it's a bit limited with what it has. Here we're just doing the kitchen and living space. This is kind of a bigger tiny house, so I tried to change it to the tiny residential lot, but it was a bit too big, even with the balcony kind of or deck area out the front. I think that those tiles shouldn't be included in the total tile count, but yeah, for this, even if I removed that, it was a bit over. Here I thought this table looked like it would be one that could possibly fold out of a counter and be used before being kind of folded back away just to save space. So I just used move objects and kind of placed it there and made sure that the Sims were still able to walk around it. Yeah, it would have been cool to have some items like that we haven't already seen in the game. But yeah, just the other day it was the 20th anniversary of The Sims, which is crazy to think that it's been out for 20 years now, all the different game iterations. It was interesting because a bunch of Simmer YouTubers put out videos about it, and some were kind of more serious videos about how The Sims has impacted their lives and kind of looking back at all the various games and what was in them. And then some were just kind of complaining about that it was the 20th anniversary and we didn't really get anything new in the game for it. Because they gave us a free hot tub, and I think a lot of people were annoyed because hot tubs came out in Spa Day, and that was kind of the, I guess, main item for that pack. So now that they were releasing this free 20th anniversary item, anyone who didn't have that pack would now have hot tubs in their game for essentially free. And I guess I can kind of tell why people might be annoyed with that, but I feel like Spa Day has been out for so long now that I don't really care if people who didn't have that now get that as a free item. But I wasn't really expecting anything for the 20th anniversary, so I'm not too fussed by it. But yeah, it does seem kind of silly that they were kind of making a huge fuss about this 20 years, that they would just then give a hot tub and not do something a bit more. But yeah, it's always interesting to hear how people first discovered The Sims and whether it was right from the beginning Sims 1 that they started playing, or perhaps more recently just in The Sims 4. For me, I started back when I was in primary school with the very first Sims game. I think it was the year it was released, or maybe the year just after. I got like a big pack combo which had The Sims, Living Large and House Party. My babysitter at the time had told me about this really, really awesome game, and then I'd asked my dad for it and he got it for us. So I think our computer though didn't handle, was it House Party? It couldn't get that to work, so we just had The Sims and Living Large on it. But my brother and I would have to play in half-hour intervals just so that we wouldn't fight over it, because yeah, we could just play that game for hours on end. And then going on to The Sims 2, which I believe was released in 2004, I think. For about 7 months during high school, I went over to the Netherlands where I had some family there. And I think it was maybe April or May that I went over there. And in New Zealand, the school year starts in, I guess, February for high school, maybe end of January. But in Holland, they do it by the American school year. So although I was there April, I wasn't able to start the new school year until September. So I had quite a lot of time before then. So I joined the volleyball team and kind of found some activities to do before then. But I had brought the Sims 2 game over with me, and I had a computer there, so I set it up. And I played it a lot there over the summer before I started attending the high school. I just remember the Sims 2 gameplay being so much fun, and it just had a certain charm to it that I don't think the Sims 4 gameplay has at the moment. And I remember then you could download other people's builds off a website and place them in your game, but I had bought the pet expansion pack in Dutch, and although I was able to install it in English, it meant I could no longer download other people's creations into my game, so that kind of annoyed me a bit. But then moving on to Sims 3, that came out in, I remember, 2009 while I was at university, and I think I had pre-ordered it quite a bit in advance from Electronics Boutique. And it's really funny thinking back to that now, how I would always go into that store to purchase Sims 3 games, but since Sims 4, since we can just do it online, there's kind of no point, and I don't really go into that store anymore. But yeah, Sims 3 was so great with the open world and how we could pretty much customize anything, with the color wheel. You could choose a wallpaper, choose a pattern for that, and then that pattern was broken down into different colors. So it was such an extreme customization, but what came with that was lagginess, and the more kind of packs you would install, the slower the game would become. But I remember the second expansion pack, World Adventures, that was my absolute favorite. You could have your sim travel to either France, China, or I think it was Egypt, I believe. And I just loved having my Sims go to France, and that kind of music and intro that it would play each time. And if you had your Sims do enough quests to get the highest visa level, they could then purchase a holiday property there, which I thought was just really cool. So yeah, Sims 3 gameplay was great, and the packs just had so much content within them. And then heading on to Sims 4, which came out in 2014, I believe. And at the time I was living in Japan and teaching English. I was living in a very rural kind of area, and I would finish work at 4:30. So on weekends I could travel and see some of my other friends who were also teaching English, but on weekdays it was kind of you just finish early and go home, and there wasn't really a whole lot to do. So once The Sims 4 came out, I installed that on my MacBook Pro, and it actually worked quite well for just playing it on a laptop. And that's when I kind of discovered other Simmers posting videos about it on YouTube. And it was really cool to find other people who had such an interest and enthusiasm for this game like I do, because up until that point I hadn't really met or had any friends that had played The Sims. So it was cool to kind of finally find that there was a community out there of people who loved the game as much as me. Also, it was exciting to have a gallery integrated within the game because previously, like with The Sims 3, 2, and I have no idea about 1, I don't think for 1, but for 2 and 3 you'd always have to upload your creations online, and then it was a bit of a process kind of downloading them and putting them in the right file. But with Sims 4 the gallery is integrated right into the game, so it's so easy to take other people's creations and place them and to share what you have done with other people. So yes, that's a bit of a look back at the previous games. I kind of remember them as various points within my life because I guess they were. But here, just back to the build. Upstairs we've got the bedroom, and I put just kind of a study area to the side, and you would have seen I used some kitchen benches there, which I thought could kind of look like a workstation along with the pin boards over top. So maybe they're a creative sim making something over there. Out in the front yard, within the kind of fenced garden area, I end up putting the scarecrow, which I think came with Seasons, and he kind of stands up and waters your plants for you, which is kind of creepy or cute. I'm not sure. I hadn't really used him in gameplay before, so I placed him there, and then he kind of walked around, watered my plants, and I had my sim talk to him a little bit. Then he walked off into the distance. This lot kind of has a tunnel underneath the road, so he kind of walked that way, disappeared, and never really came back again. So I'm not sure if that's a bug or if he tends to wander off and return, but I think I had it playing for like a day and he never came back. So let me know if it's happened to you or if I need to replace him with a new scarecrow. But thank you so much for watching. I have a micro tiny house build coming up next, and then we might take a little break from the tiny house builds and do something different. But I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!